Hello, welcome to VMC. I'm Dr. M. Today we are going to cover the basics of canine husbandry and enrichment, so join me, you'll learn something. So it's very important that regular veterinary care is part of your dog's life. We know that pets that receive regular veterinary care will have issues caught sooner, which means that they have a better quality of life for longer. And so as a puppy, your dog will need to see your veterinarian every 3 to 4 weeks for vaccine boosters. I have a video on the basics of vaccines that you can watch if you have questions about that. Then once they are an adult, you need to have your dog evaluated by your veterinarian at least once every year. And if they have any medical issues or as they start to age, this is going to need to become more frequent. For seniors, at least once every 6 months is recommended, and as they start to develop medical problems, this will become more and more frequent, and your veterinarian will guide you on the necessary frequency that your individual dog ends up needing. And for seniors, it's also very important that we're checking a blood work panel every year as well, just to make sure that organ function is trucking along okay, and that if any issues are starting to come up, that we can address them early and start to implement prevention to slow down the progression of disease processes wherever possible. So let's move on to discuss enrichment. The definition of enrichment is to be doing species-specific activities that animal finds enjoyable. And this is very important. And so for the vast majority of dogs, the bulk of this needs to be Sniffari style walks. Dogs need them. They interact with their environment mostly through their nose. Humans tend to be more vision focused, but our dogs really rely on their nose to inform them about the world. And when people yank them along on a short leash and don't let them stop and sniff things, that walk does nothing for that dog. There's even research on this showing how different leash lengths corresponds with different amounts of time that the dog spends sniffing per 5 minutes of walk. And so a short leash means that the dogs were only sniffing for 37 seconds out of the 5 minutes. If they were on a long line that was about 15 feet long, then the dogs would sniff 103 seconds, which is a dramatic increase. That's about 280% more sniffing time just switching out to a long line. These dogs were also compared to off-leash dogs who spent an average of 119 seconds sniffing. This is important to know because it demonstrates that using a long line can provide that enrichment for these dogs, as a lot of us live in places where being off-leash is just not responsible or safe for the dog. And it's also important to remember that a lot of dogs don't have a good enough of a recall to be off of a leash. So these walks need to occur every morning and evening within reasonable limits. You follow the dog where they want to go. You let their nose lead them. Of course, keep them safe. If they're gonna run into the middle of the road, don't let them do that. But if they want to sniff a bush for 10 seconds, let them sniff the bush for 10 seconds. This walk is for them. And we have also found through research that when dogs are allowed to smell things and sniff things, their pulse decreases. This is a decompression thing for them. It's very enriching for them, and it will keep their brain so much happier than marching along at a quick pace. If you just keep the dog moving and you're moving with them, you're going to end up with an athlete who's incredibly frustrated. If you allow the dog to have their Sniffari time, they and you will be much happier. Now, of course, if you have a dog that is very reactive or that is very fearful, Sniffaris may not be right for you and for your dog. And there are also going to be dogs with some medical issues that can't do these walks. So of course, take these generalized recommendations and make sure to apply them to your specific dog, because the most important thing about enrichment is that the dog finds these things actually enriching and enjoys them. If these things that you're trying to do with your dog are not enjoyed by your dog, then it's not enrichment. I also want to add here that you cannot use a retractable leash. Do not do it. Those leashes always hold tension on the line, which is teaching your dog to pull, and that's the opposite behavior of what we're wanting from them. We want a loose leash walking behavior. It also is an incredibly dangerous tool. I can't tell you the number of times where dogs have pulled through the stopper that's supposed to stop them and been badly injured because of it. They also get badly injured when that cord wraps around their limb or their body. I've witnessed so very many burns, but because those lines are quite thin and the material that they are, I've even had to amputate legs before because that line has burned so far through the muscle and tendons that that limb is no longer salvageable. There are even people that have lost fingers and have been badly injured because of these retractable leashes. Get a proper long line. Learn how to use that long line. It's important when you're handling it that you don't wrap the loops of the long line around your palm. You need it to go back and forth across your palm. And this is a safety thing because if the dog does take off after something, you do not want to have that line wrapped around your hand because it will go tight before you can drop it, and then your hand will be in a lot of trouble. So kibble that's left over from our morning Sniffari is put into food puzzles for my dog, and I rotate her access to those puzzles every 2 to 3 weeks to keep them fresh and more entertaining for her. You can use snuffle mat styles, you can even be sprinkling kibble in the grass for your dog to forage for. There are rolling type puzzles. Nina Ottoson has a bunch of different like flipping and nudging type puzzles that are of a variety of difficulty levels. Those are wonderful. And I also do like to use canned food into food puzzles like the Kong and the Topple and the Star Mark Pickle and a bunch of others. Putting canned food and or kibble into these puzzles is a fantastic way to give your dog an enriching sort of activity that takes up some of their time and helps them to settle down into a relaxation nap time. And we will also use it to satisfy that gnawing and chewing urge that so many dogs have. And this is also very helpful for teething dogs to help relieve some of the gum pain, and also great for in the summer to help dogs cool down. So consider food puzzles that are safe for dog teeth. It's very important that you can indent your fingernail into it, and that if you hit it across your knee, that it doesn't hurt. If the food puzzle does not pass those two tests, it's likely too hard for your dog's teeth and will risk fracturing the teeth. So make sure to use appropriate food puzzles. Remember that all treats must be less than 10% of the dog's daily caloric intake, otherwise you're unbalancing the diet. Your dog also needs access to toys that they can use, and rotating their access to these toys is also helpful in maintaining the freshness and excitement of them. The next thing that our dogs need on a daily basis is some playtime. And this is important because it helps to build the bond between you and your dog. Some dogs really enjoy tugging. Make sure that you are tugging at their level and not yanking hard on them or really trying to move them around. That can cause damage to their neck. But if they are running the show and you're letting them win a lot, tug can be a very fun game for the both of you. I do caution people about fetch. This game is very repetitive, and the high-speed changes of direction that are so frequent are very hard on the dog's body and often cause a lot of injuries. I also see dogs that become quite obsessive about the game, which isn't fun for anybody. And overall, I discourage people from doing fetch with their dog. If you wish to teach your dog to retrieve, 1 or 2 reps at a time can still be okay, especially if you are careful with where you throw the object, how you throw it, and that your dog is warmed up and fit before you're doing any of these sorts of things. What I do encourage people to do instead is to place toys in locations and send your dog to find them. This is very engaging for them, makes them use their nose some more, isn't quite as high speed, so it's safer for their bodies and doesn't lead to the same obsessive compulsive behaviors that we can see with fetch. A lot of dogs will also enjoy some chase games. Of course, you want to make sure that your dog is actually having fun and that you're not scaring them. They can chase you, you can chase them. This can be a great fun game to play with your dog when it's done responsibly. It's also important every day to be working with a fun, positive reinforcement training session. I will cover more on behavior modification in future videos, but for today we'll just have a bit of an overview. This is to keep you and your dog current with your skills, because behaviors that aren't done very often will be forgotten. So this gives you a chance to work on recalls, which are so important and often life-saving. It gives you the chance to work on any sort of skill that you and your dog find fun. You should also be working on husbandry skills. So this means nail trims. I'll link below to a fantastic group that has a lot of resources about how to do proper desensitization and counter conditioning for your dogs so that they enjoy nail trims and so that it's not a stressful thing for the both of you. I also encourage people to brush their dog's teeth every day, and you can work on teaching that behavior as well. It's important to also consider things like if your dog gets sick in the future, what sorts of things might be required of them, and regularly ear drops, eye drops, and taking medications are necessary. So teaching them to do these behaviors in a cooperative manner is very important. And I also will include in here, teach your dog to wear a muzzle. Even if they never end up needing it, there's always situations where dogs get injured or are incredibly fearful, and a muzzle can keep them and anybody trying to help them safe. So if wearing a muzzle is something your dog is used to and doesn't find stressful, that will make that emergency situation so much better. We're just looking to make life better for you and for your dog. So working on these husbandry behaviors is very important. Lastly, the thing that most dogs need is some sort of job or class, something that gives the humans accountability to keep teaching and working with their dog, learning fun new things. So find something that your dog likes. A lot of dogs really like scent detection work. You can consider things like dock diving, herding, agility, obedience classes, whatever it is that your dog enjoys and that you are also interested in, that will also give you things to work on in your daily training sessions so that those don't become stagnant and boring. It's also crucial that you meet all of your dog's needs before you go to work for the day. Before you go to work, your dog needs a Sniffari. They need their food puzzles filled. They need to have their brain worked with and tired out so that they can sleep and be happy and relaxed while you are otherwise busy. If you are going to be gone from the house for more than 4 to 5 hours, you need to have somebody come by to let your dog out because they need a bathroom break, they need their food puzzles refreshed, they need a little bit of time to stretch their legs. You'll have to be creative in problem solving this, but it's very important that you do so. It's not fair to just leave our dogs alone for immense stretches of time. They're very social beings, and they also, if we want them to eliminate outdoors, we need to give them the opportunity to do so. Just as we would not be able to hold our bladder and bowels for 10 hours at a time, we can't expect our dogs to do that either. I also want you to note the things that I'm not saying your dog needs. Please stop taking dogs to dog parks. If there are other dogs there, the vast majority of the interactions that I see have horrific, rude behavior between the dogs, and I have to repair so many dogs that get into dog fights, and some of these dogs even die. Dog parks include people that are just not properly supervising their dogs, and it's also a great place for dogs to pass on viruses and giardia and parvo and fleas, other parasites, upper respiratory infections like bordetella. It's also a place where dogs learn rude behaviors, so dog parks are not something that I recommend going to. Your dog will get much more out of a Sniffari style walk than they will from a dog park. You could arrange play dates with dogs that you know that are healthy and fully vaccinated if you have the proper knowledge base with how to supervise play, to know what good play looks like, and to interrupt the play if it goes on for too long or gets too rowdy or becomes too one-sided. The vast majority of people don't have these skills, so work with a strictly positive reinforcement trainer if you are looking to do that with your dog. It's also important that we remember that the majority of adult dogs are at best dog selective, so they'll like some dogs but not others. Very few adult dogs want to spend a ton of time around so many other adult dogs. Most find other dogs rude and annoying, and forcing them to interact is not wise. Alright, I hope that you have enjoyed learning about the basic enrichment needs and basic husbandry needs of our dogs. I post a new video most Fridays, so I hope that you will join me next week. And thank you so much for watching.